Lazyman here with another tip on living life the Lazyman way. Today's tip is for Governor Mitt Romney, who's going to be having a very important debate this coming week. Governor Romney, you did pretty good in the last debate, but you know they're going to be coming back at you very hard, so you have to have a different strategy this time. You got to give them something they're not expecting. So I've got 3 or 4 tips that I think will help you to crush President Obama in the debate and ride the wave of your success all the way to the White House. Okay, here are the tips. Tip number 1 is you want to frame your answers in terms of leader versus manager. Everybody talks about leadership, but we don't really understand the difference between somebody who's a leader and somebody who's a manager. So as you go through the various topics, you want to frame them in that distinction, because then you're going to frame President Obama as a manager and you as a leader. So what are some of those differences? Well, let's take one that just is sort of subtle, but it really, really hits home. Recently, President Obama was run these ridiculous ads of Big Bird. Big Bird's going to die if we don't keep funding the public broadcast system. Okay, that's how a manager thinks. That's how the government thinks. If I don't give the money to these people, they're going to fail. Okay, a leader says, wait a minute, let's see, what is the value of the Muppet franchise? Hundreds of millions of dollars. I don't think they're going to be failing anytime soon. So maybe if they don't have the additional freebie funding, they're going to have to go put themselves out to bid to a private sector cable channel. What, you don't think MTV wouldn't want to put those guys on their channel, start to get a new demographic that they can appeal to? Or how about National Geographic, or even better, the Learning Channel? What's better than that? So you delineate the fact that the reason why you want to focus on not giving money to certain enterprises is because they're better off served in the private sector. That's a leader. A manager says, I've got to do it because I don't trust somebody else to be able to do as good a job as I do. Of course, the fallacy of that is the government never does as good of a job on any of these activities, strategies as the private sector. I mean, come on. You already pointed out that he's like 0 for 10 on these venture capital investments. So let the private sector do what they do best. That leads me to tip number 2, which is, how are you going to reduce the deficit? It's pretty clear. You say it in various ways, but let's make it really clear. The way to reduce government is to take the things that they're doing and give them to somebody else. That's leadership. A leader delegates. A manager holds his cards close to his vest and then takes, after he's got it all worked out and all the specifics, then he rams it down the throat of the people that work for him, and they don't learn anything from it, and the best solution never is realized. So that's why when he says, where's your specifics, you say, look, a leader doesn't have specifics at the beginning point of a creative opportunity. The leader creates a vision at which he wants those people in the group to drive the results, and he creates parameters and boundaries. He says, and be creative, but only within these conditions. And in your case, for example, the tax code, your conditions were, I want to try to achieve a 20% across-the-board tax cut. Now, I want to make sure that after we pull out loopholes and do all these other things, that 2 things happen. The tax burden on the middle class does not go up, and no plan can allow the federal deficit to increase. So how can I give specifics right now? A leader wouldn't want to do that. He wants to empower the group that is assigned that task to be creative and come up with a way to do it. You can say, oh, the math doesn't work, the math doesn't work. Well, the math is going to work because we're going to create the boundaries and the conditions that say make the math work within those factors. So if you're the middle class, you don't have to worry about a tax code that's going to screw you, because one of the parameters is don't let that happen and don't let it increase the federal deficit. Now, if within those 2 conditions you can't come up with a better tax code, well, then you probably don't have the smart enough people in the task, because dang, that task code is what, 15,000 pages long? There's got to be a way clean it up, and make it work for everybody to pay less taxes and to stimulate the economy. And by the way, I don't think rich people mind paying more taxes. They just don't want to throw the money down the drain the way there's no fiscal responsibility right now. You give somebody more money, they spend more money. They don't have to spend it. If they're not going to spend it wisely, why would you give it to them? So rich people are going to minimize their taxes. The other thing, interestingly enough, that you as a private sector businessman understand that they don't. Let's take the education argument. Well, we're going to spend $100 million to improve education in America. The fact of the matter is, you can cut the education budget. Oh, if you cut education, you don't believe in education. You don't believe in having us be competitive. No, the fact of the matter is, what I'm saying is, I can cut education by 20% and make it 5 times more effective. Why? Because I'm going to have smart people that I'm going to give a vision to, and they're going to come up with a way. I saw that guy in 60 Minutes. He's got this incredible way of doing it where the kids all work on a computer, but it doesn't just cut out teachers not on their own. It frees the teacher up from lecturing and giving them facts to memorize to be able to walk around the room with their iPad and be able to see how they're doing and can see all the kids on her screen and say, oh, he's not doing so well in this section. Let me go over there and give him some tutoring. So they turn into supporting the kids doing their own learning. See, there's ways to do it that are a lot cheaper. So a leader will empower people to come up with those ways, not just say we need to spend more money on it. So focus on those things. Now, the last thing tip I want to give you is you got to have a slogan or something that you say that'll be memorable. And in this case, something like Ronald Reagan when he would say, "There you go again." So I think what would work for you would be something like this. President Obama is going to try to throw out, 47% or Etch-a-Sketch or Bain Capital or your tax rates and all these things. And when he does that, you don't want to be distracted and defensive on those points. So you want to be able to say, President Obama, are you kidding me? That's where you want to spend valuable debate time talking about that? I want to talk about the issues. Sure, we all have things that we would do different if we could. You have them. Everybody has them. But you know what? What's really important right now is to talk about the difference between the two directions that we want to take our government. I'm all about pushing things to the private sector, pushing things to the states. I'm all about being a leader, not a manager. Those are the things that we want to debate about because we want the people to have a clear choice. So let's not go down in the gutter. And then if he tries to do it again, you just keep saying to him, are you kidding me? That's where you want to go? You think that's something smart to talk about? You think these American people are going to buy into these numbers and these statistics and these specifics? Maybe you give a little education to them and say, hey, look, how in the polls they say it's 49% plus or minus 3 percentage points? Well, why do we think these econometric models are so accurate? Because they throw out some number that says it's down to the dollar, 322 billion, 528 million, something like that. No, the fact of the matter, yeah, that's the number, plus or minus 100 billion. Those econometric models have all sorts of fudge factors in them. Why don't you point that out and then get away from the math or the specifics or the numbers, any of that kind of thing. Stay focused on how do you create a government that supports economic growth. You do it by being a leader and you give those specific examples. Now, if you do those two things, delineate leadership and management, and talk about reducing the government by privatizing most of these things that the government's not good at anyway, and giving the states the right to make those decisions and get out of some of these other things, then I believe you will win that debate hands down, and you'll be able to ride that wave of success all the way to the White House. That's it for today. Lazyman signing off.